Okay, we got cut off. I don't know what happened. We're back trying to make these arms a little straighter before we start shaping them and extruding them out. Got a recovered version of my file. I'll go ahead and select these faces. So I've got all 6 on one side, 12 total faces. And what I'm going to try to do is use the scaling tool to make those planar. Right now they're kind of all over the map. They're big funky shapes. So I'm going to go in here on this top view. I'm going to grab my scaling tool and just pull it as far out as I can. And it looks along the top line like that's pretty straight now. Same here, although it does look like it maybe goes up a bit. It could just be some of our other lines. It looks like by scaling we did manage to get those nice and straight. So I'm going to pull those out just a little bit to about where I think the elbow might be, and then we'll do some extruding at that point. Looks good. While we're playing with the scaling tool, I might try and bring these down just a little bit. Look toward the bottom of the screen, right down there in the bottom left corner where it says scaling. Pull that way down. On the one axis we're not moving very much, so we're at 1, and I'm just going to pull these down a little bit until it's about 0.95, 0.949. That sounds good. Just to kind of keep with the general idea that an arm gets larger as it moves up to the shoulder. Pull it down just a little bit more. I'll do 947 again. Okay, and I'm going to go back to my modeling toolkit and do some extrusions. So it's at 1.5. Tumble the view a little bit. Probably what I want to do instead of just coming out that far to begin with is doing this in steps and going 0.5. And no offset for now. We can scale later. Alright, and I've clicked select to kind of bake that in. I'm going to try that again. Thickness 0, local translate 0.5. Bake it, and then we'll do one more longer. Try 1.5 now. Gets his arms out. These may be longer arms than we're looking at in the little drawing. But I'm going to go 1.75 just to make it even longer. And then we'll start his wrists there. And what I'm hoping for there with these extra sets of lines here is as we put a skeletal structure in there and we start to move the bones, you can imagine if there's just one crease along that joint as you bend your elbow, it's really going to get some funky and distorted shapes. And so we want to give enough geometry around there. We want to give enough lines and vertices that it can start to gradually fold over that bone that's moving, or that joint that's moving. We'll see a whole lot more what that looks like and what we're going for as we get a skeletal structure in here. And we'll probably want to throw some more lines along the kneecap for that very same purpose. So as you can imagine now, if this tune guide bends his knee, and we've just got this one line along here, it's going to bend in such a way where he's got a very pointy knee, and we want a little more gradual. So those are kind of weirdly shaped arms. We didn't really round them out too much before getting into extruding. We can do that now. Perhaps we should have done that before extruding so many times. I'm just going to completely make this up. I'm not sure what shape I'm going for. I'm going to keep grabbing these sets of lines and moving them around until I feel like we've rounded out. Setting up these axis lines to be nice and straight, and then I'll bring the front part of that arm in. Thing you may notice is I'm just grabbing two of those three edges. That edge in the middle, since it's connected to the two I'm moving, will just come along with it. And this is already a whole lot rounder. So we rounded out from the elbow down. We're going to expect there to be a little bit more mass at the shoulder, maybe not in that shape. I think I'm going to grab this edge and pull down just a bit. It's going to be hard to pull this in much without messing with the curvature around his belly. Do a quick save on this. We'll come back up. I'm going to move down just a little bit to his feet. We've already angled his cuff so that the boot can come out. So I think what I'm going to want to do is inset that a bit before we ever do anything else. So I'm going to grab those bottom bits, which could use a little straightening out themselves. Maybe I'll do that. Maybe before we go too much further, I'm going to pull this cuff in. It's just kind of squared along that edge. So I'm going to pull that back a bit. We'll do the same for the back edge that looks squared off. Just a little rounder. And I don't think those mess with our profile any at all on the side. We'll double check. No, everything seems to still be lining up. We will, of course, want to pull those arms down and match that later, but we've squirreled and we're back on boots. We've got those selected, and on the extrude here, I'm going to go 0 on local translate and thickness, and I'm going to make an offset here. Let's start guessing at that. 0.2 looks good. And that gives us some cuff, and then we can come down from that, and we may flare right back out, but it kind of gives us some form. We'll extrude again. This time we're coming down. Let's go down by 2, not 0.2, but no kidding, 2. Right. Sweet, now we have horse hooves. All right, that gave us something to start with. Just looking at this. Thinking if we pull that down and flatten it, then we can angle back out for the boot. All right, we'll leave that at 2. We'll bake it in. Then we'll start moving it. I think we'll want to move it back. Straighten that out. Let's see how that looks along this. Pull that down. I think it was already back. We'll give it some more form later. And then we're going to pull our scale trick again, and I'm just going to pull it down this axis. Now it may look even more like a hoof. All right, that's a place to start from, at the very least. And we can add some geometry in here as needed. First thing we'll want to do is bring out these front parts, probably with an extrude, just to get that boot front here. Okay, let's pull it out by 2.5. That looks terrible, just the way we want it. But we've got the start of a form, and then we can shape from there. Extrude again. Start giving it offset. Oh, now he's flat-footed. Or excuse me, he's not flat-footed. Got some arch. Okay, I'm going to scale those. And by those I mean 1. That's not what I wanted to do. Right, grab all 4 edges. Now we'll scale. Now it's got something relative to scale 2. So now we know this set of polys is at least planar. Of course, I'm hotkeying all over the place. I hit spacebar to focus in on this particular view, and then I hit F to focus in on what I had selected. And that looks pretty flat. Don't know what I just did. Oh, apparently I switched to another view. There we go. Those are big chunky boots. Look like Frankenstein boots. We're going to have to fix those. Ooh. So he's walking with a limp. grab the whole front part of the boot, and I'm going to pull it back till the bottom at least lines up with the drawing. Then we can pull that nose out later. With the limited lines and geometry I have now, I'm just trying to straighten that boot out so where it looks at least halfway decent, and then we'll start cutting back in and adding more form. Kind of like we've been doing all along. A weird boot spike right over the toe. Right. Apparently did not grab the edge I wanted. I think we moved a little bit back underneath. There we go. Double click that edge that I knew I wanted. We're interfering just a bit with the cuff that we were proud of ourselves for making earlier. That's a little better. Still kind of ew. All right. We've got a lot more forming and shaping to do. I can see a lot of spots we're going to need to move some lines, add some lines, but I think for this week we're going to call this good. So you'll turn in this file. Hopefully it's already got the referenced file right in next to it. So if you turn in that folder that's containing these in your project for your Maya, we'll get your reference file, we'll get your reference images, and we'll get this blocky, no head, no hand body with Frankenstein boots. So zip that up, turn that folder in, and we'll pick up again next week. What I plan to do is finish this rough body out, and even if it's just a nasty sphere of a head, I want to get into having a completed model and putting a skeleton structure in by the time we meet for our next course, which should be in the syllabus. So I'm going to, once again, increment and save, and we'll call it a day.